But with that, without further ado, um, I'd like to welcome our guest presenter this evening. As in contrast to everybody else who have presented so far in this journey through the Omer, Reb Charna and I don't really know each other very well. But you ever have people who you just respect the hell out of from a distance, and because first of all, because she's well respected with an olive, and everybody says, "Oh man, she's a great teacher. You should really know Charna." So this was my sneaky way of getting to know you better by making this connection. So, without further ado, and any more antics from me besides welcoming Reb Sarah, we're happy you came, that the bus was on time to get you here. Please give a most welcome to Rabbi Charna Rosenholtz.
You guys are like so adorable. It is a real pleasure and delight to be here. The only thing I'll really say about my own introduction to add to that, and a few people here, like Marcia and Steve and Ellen, I've known them a long time. They represent, well, Beth, I've known you even longer, Batia, but it's good to see you. But they really represent my background as a Maggid. I trained as a Maggid with three different teachers. Um, and so that's really kind of in my bones. Something happened to me in 2012 where I realized that I needed to turn the corner from Maggid to Rabbi. And it became because I fell so in love with the tradition. I wanted to be able to stand up for the tradition, the deep, deep roots. And the other thing I want to share with you is I was lucky enough to know Reb Zalman Schachter Shalomi quite well. I'm one of the few people that was a student of his at the end of his life. The last 10 years of his life, I spent a tremendous amount of time. Oh, the Rebbe, that's so beautiful. Thank you. God bless him, of blessed memory. And he, I sat down with him, just one on one with him 54 times as he kind of downloaded his intellectual history and spiritual biography. And so I will tell you pretty much everything I do at this point of my life, including becoming an ordination student within the Aleph ordination program. He ordained me as a Maggid, and as well as the three schools I went to. Everything I do really, I teach in his name. Um, Blessed is the one that brought such an extraordinary righteous man into us. And I think there's quite a few people here that personally knew him. And so congratulations on that. The other thing I want to say is I started counting the Omer in 1994. And when I started, there was very little information out there. Those of us, I'm seeing a head nod for other people who started way back in not way back in the day, would of course been 2000 years ago, I guess, but I really enjoyed that deep sense of having a measured way to mark the days between Passover and Shavuot. And as many of you know, I've listened to quite a few of the recordings, and it's so fascinating how different perspectives were. And I think what's really important is that as you go through these processes, learning how to develop your own philosophy around that is really important. And I'm just curious, I'm just going to take a couple of sentences of kind of long-term counters. I'm curious, do you find more value in just paying attention only to the sephira of that week? Do you enjoy doing different nuances by the day? And or have you developed your own philosophy at this point? And I'd love to hear from a person or two on this. Any motionics want to share? And of course, we're all motionics, I've heard. Devorah, we'll start with you.
Uh, well, I've been doing it for, I think, since 2017 when I became part of AOP at that time. and learned about it. But some years I find that it's too much to do the interaction every single day. And so I thought I invented it, this idea of just stick to the main sephira for the week and not do all the other stuff, because otherwise it was deterring me from doing anything.
I understand that. And that's kind of what I wanted, why I wanted to ask the question. I will give nuances for each day today, but we're going to really be looking more at the principles of the various the specific sephira more than anything. Ellen, please.
I started counting the Omer and developed an Omer garden in 1992. And you're right, there was practically nothing there. And it was actually our rabbi, Jonathan Kliegler in Woodstock,
Woodstock.
who asked me to ask a friend and to start a Rosh Kodesh group within the synagogue. And I didn't know what Rosh Kodesh was, but he knew that I'd led a lot of women's groups and all that. So having the physical garden in each of the places that I live makes it really so easy to sort of, because it's right next to the front steps. So
That's absolutely brilliant. And I want to say, you don't have to have a whole garden to do something. You can create Omer plants. You
sure.
can create a scaled down version of that. I think that's a brilliant thing to do. Thank you, Ellen. Last comment. And Reb Sarah, what a delight to see your beautiful face. Of course, that pesky mute button.
Hey, okay. I can't tell you how long ago it was, a very long time ago, but a friend of mine and myself decided to count the Omer together and journal and share each day what we experienced. And this year I have 3 different or 4 different four different groups or synagogues or whatever that do send me email on counting the Omer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. It's amazing what's available today. Well, let's kind of dive in. I just want to remind everybody, for the historians in the group, that it was really in the medieval period, the 10th to 13th century, when meditative elements began to be added in, but its explicit mystical structure didn't really take place until the 16th century Kabbalistic Renaissance in Sfat. And the Baal Shem Tov and other Hasidic followers emphasize that inner emotional and ethical work. But it's also very similar to what happened with Shavuot. Shavuot wasn't originally ascribed to the revelation of the Torah at Sinai. That's another thing that developed later. And it's an important reminder for us, especially if you are an engaged renewal Jew, like many of us are here, that sense of shifting and changing and deepening as consciousness evolves over time. So do our practices, and that renewal is a part of traditional Judaism. And we also have to remember the Reb Zalman principle of backwards compatibility. As we shift and change, we have to always remember to include the foundation of the past, and we can transcend it, but we pull from the roots up. And I think that's an essentially important principle, especially in these times of great upheaval and change. And so now we approach Shavuot as Shneur Zalman of Liadi taught, and this is one of my favorite teachings in the everness of what I've learned over the years, is there's this sense that when we incarnate, there is like this the soul has accumulated spiritual lights. Yet, because the vessel, the person, has not yet developed the capacity to hold all those spiritual lights, they hover. They hover over our head, kind of like a halo. Maybe that's what mystics even saw as the halo, was somebody's spiritual lights hovering. And Shir Zalman of Liadi says that during Shavuot, especially in the night, that channels, it's an 8 ratzon, it's an auspicious time. And that because of that, a channel opens and we can absorb some of those spiritual lights within us, which is such a beautiful, it's almost like a consummation. It's like a wedding ring that wants to come down and really have us grow and evolve to the next level. And with God's help, we're evolving every single year. We all know, if you think of who you were last year and where you are now, like that's the cool thing, that we are continually growing and unfolding and allowing those spiritual lights to come in. So along with that is the whole concept of these 50 gates of understanding. And the teaching with that goes that there are 50 gates, there are 50 gates to ascend to the highest level, and there are 50 gates to descend to the lowest level. And it is said that the children of Israel descended to the 49th gate. And one more level of descent, and they would have disappeared. Luckily, they remembered something deep in their soul, and they cried, they moaned, they groaned, they cried, they sighed. I think that's chapter 6, Exodus. And when that happened, it's like it was that emotion that allowed the remembrance to say, all right, okay, we'll lift you up. And then it is said that at the crossing, we went to neutral, and then we have to go from that neutral place, and then we climb these 50 gates to be able to receive Sinai. So 50, the Nun, the letter Nun, which of course can be the snake, Nachshon, in Ginsburg's book on the Aleph Bet, he talks about the Nun. It can be the Mashiach, the heir to the throne, or it can be the snake. And that's really our choice in each and every day, I would say. So before I go on, any questions or comments about that, please? Is that helpful in any way?
If I can offer, I love the whole concept of 8 ratzon. So our colleague and friend Chana Tiferet once taught me that an 8 ratzon is a time, an 8, where God's will and our desire intersects. So it's an auspicious, important moment. That perhaps it's a one moment in a lifetime. Maybe it's one moment every day if we are attentive to it. But the other thing I love about 8 ratzon is the word ratzon. If you juggle the letters a little bit, as we, Jews are prone to be, to do. 8 tzinor. It is a time in which we are at tzinor. A tzinor is a conduit that serves for the flow of blessings on high and all directions. And so we can think of that ourselves as that holy vessel that you so beautifully also described, Rabbi Charna. So
I love that. And we're going to talk more about that pipeline, that channel, as we go through this. That's a very important part of understanding Yesod. So thanks for the setup. Rabbi Moshe.
Very, very quickly, because it's your session. In my session, and I tried to talk about this with Chesed, your question about how do you interface the daily one and the weekly one. I've been to shuls where they just say, "Hey, everybody, this is the week of Yesod. Let's all talk about. Let's get into this," and they only emphasize the week, and that's fine. It's hard, like you say, it gets complicated, and I sit there every night when I try to do it by myself or with friends. And what I find, and I think I said this in my session, is imagine you have two friends. One is staying for the week, and then you got every day you got another friend who comes in and says, but by the way, so like that. So you get this kind of, in this week you'll get, and I think, what are we, Netzach? Yeah, every Wednesday night is a Netzach. So you get and I tried to do this in my chart, and every year I change the words slightly, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're going to kind of get into how we'll approach that, but let me talk. Thank you so much, Rabbi Moshe. Let me talk a little bit about Yesod. This is what I'm going to offer. And so Yesod is often called the sephira of the tzaddik, the one who stands firm in the face of challenge, not because life is easy, but because they are tethered to something deeper. It is the quality of the soul that knows how to endure and adapt, to stay aligned with purpose, even in the darkest corners of our experience. Think of Joseph, one of the biblical figures that is put into Yesod. Think of him in the prison cells of Egypt. Sold into slavery, exiled from his family, he finds himself managing the household of Potiphar. There he faces a daily test, the seductive advances of Potiphar's wife. He refuses, not out of repression, but from clarity of soul. He asks in Genesis, how could I do this wicked thing and sin before God? His restraint isn't denial of desire. It is a channeling of life force in alignment with purpose. Of course, his refusal lands him in prison, and yet even there he continues to serve the dreams of others. He listens, he interprets, he uplifts. In this, he embodies the deep current of Yesod, an unwavering link between the divine and the human, grounded in both ethical clarity and inner strength. This is the embodiment of Yesod. Well, how about Tamar? That beautiful, one of my favorite figures in the Genesis story. She's bold, strategic, and sensually wise. After being cast aside and denied justice, she refuses to be erased. Disguised as a roadside Kadesha, sacred harlot or whore, if we want to be judgmental, she lures Judah into an encounter that is more than seduction. It is an act of covenantal restoration. She knew that a child had to come through her, through Judah's line. So with erotic cleverness, she ensures the continuity of a lineage that will lead to King David, and by tradition, the messianic future. She did not have a lot of agency. So she used the agency she had, sexual expression. Tamar embodies the alchemical power of Yesod, the ability to enter difficult spaces and draw forth blessing. We'll get to blessing momentarily. These figures, Joseph and Tamar, hold the paradox of Yesod. One draws boundaries with fierce spiritual integrity. The other crosses boundaries with fierce spiritual creativity. They move through impossibility with grace and grit. They do not cling to fixed roles or appearances. They allow themselves to be vessels, the channels that Rabbi Mark was talking about earlier. They took the ratzon, which is will, but it's also connected to desire, and they turn it into that sinor, that capacity to really be a pipeline for something greater, to be this vessel for greater unfolding. At its core, Yesod is about faith and possibility. It asks us to resist that gravity and self-pity that we can easily fall into when times are difficult. And it does it not through denial of what's going on, but aligning ourselves with hope, with prayer, with the quiet resolve to be of service, with deep humility, with a sense of service, with blessing as our cloak. It teaches that just to keep things flowing, to keep the current moving. It calls in divine flow and invites you to let that divine flow move through you again, like that channel. Let it be in your words, your gestures, your generosity. The soul cloaks itself in thought, in speech, in action. And speech is very much a part, right speech is very much a part of Yesod. In Kabbalistic teaching, Yesod receives the distilled energy of all the upper sefirot, loving kindness, discipline, beauty, endurance, humility, and channels it toward the world. Again, this spiritual conduit. The invitation of Yesod is to become a bridge between spirit and matter, between heaven and earth, between what is and what could be, to act righteously and justly, to assist every righteous effort in the world and to become peaceful, to work for peace. So I'm going to show you right now, there's two things I want to accomplish. I want to show you right now what I've developed as the nuances of Yesod. I'm going to show you, and by the way, I'm not really looking at the chat. Devorah, are you the one who asked to be co-host? If you see a really important question in the chat, will you bring it to my attention? Thank you. I really appreciate that. I am, though, going to put here into this what I have discerned as the different elements. And right now, sorry about that. Let me put this into the chat. You know, we're at an interface between Tiferet and Netzach right now. So for me, Chesed and Yesod, you know, that sense you're shunning honor in Chesed, in Yesod, because you're just letting, you're just letting something pour through you. In Gevur, it's not conceited with one's learning. Does not delight in dictating decisions. Netzach and Yesod shares the burden of one's fellow human. Sorry, I should have fixed that earlier. Hod in Yesod judges the other favorably. I have not updated this for new language. Yesod and Yesod directs one to the truth, Malchut and soul to peace. So there are ways, as Rabbi Moshe said, and this is in the chat so you can take it for yourself. There are ways in which we understand, yes, Yesod is the single guest, but everyone that comes in adds to the table. I love that metaphor. That was really beautiful. But Yesod for me is really working on the development of one's ego. And I'm going to share something in a moment of a way to work with the tree of life for one's own personal development that will really explore this concept. But first, questions, comments, insights. Did this evoke anything for you? And I'd like to hear from somebody I haven't yet heard from before I would listen. Somebody else would come. Yes, integrity. Beautiful, Dan. Beautiful. That's a huge part of Yesod, is deep integrity. Nice cattail. Comments, questions? Rick, does that mean you have a question? Please.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Charna, it's Elizabeth.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I have a question to do with the things I've heard. It's, to do with in the body, the sexual organs. And I think of it as in the Dantian and Hara or whatever. There's something equivalent there, because this is a really powerful center that really does some of what it just I can't
Yeah.
find the words right now.
No. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And it's interesting. I recently taught a Kabbalah class, and I brought people into awareness of the Dantian Hara, the assemblage point, if you will. It's such an important point. And they were disturbed because it elicited sexual feelings and they felt that was inappropriate. This is something we're talking about. It's right here on my outline. Sacred sexuality, eros, our emotions, pleasure, it's rectification. So we are going to talk about that. That's so important. When I think about how many of the rules and laws within Torah are oriented towards proper sexuality, we understand that part of our growth is understanding how those energies move in us and how to work with them in a holier way. Confession. I am obsessed right now, for worse or worse, with reading Everyday Trial of the Sean Combs trial. I don't know if anybody else is reading that, but yeah, I'm just a little obsessed with it. And I would call that wrong sexuality because so many people were hurt. Understanding these things are so important. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for really, well, we're going to do an exercise soon that will center us in that area. So does that suffice for now, Elizabeth? Thank you. Very, very important. Hey, how easy is it to talk about sex? Right? Right. Something each and every one of us, it's a part of who we are. It's a part of our being, but we have trouble talking about these things. We have trouble talking about attraction, sensuality. We conflate sensuality and sexuality. All of this is absolutely the work of Yesod. So thank you for that. Any other comments in this moment? Marcia.
In the same room, so I have to talk through his thing. I just want to, before other people's comments, the comment I wanted to make was how much I appreciated your description of Joseph and Tamar, and that really loops back into, Elizabeth's comment, that Joseph restrained because of his connection with the divine, and that Tamar expressed creatively. So I just want to.
Thank you. Thank you. It's like I said, there wasn't a lot of agency for women. And even now, we get agency and then it gets pushed down and we get agency. That's another class. That is, which I'd love to talk about, but not today. Here's something I want to share with you. Let's see. Let me get in my share screen. I'm going to use this one first. And then we'll look at the other one. So one of the ways to look and work with the tree is to see these three different triangles as something. And so here we are doing Shavuot, and it's kind of like the way we count, it's like the energy comes down, kind of rectifying each of these sephirot as we go through them. As a human, as an Adam, my job is to climb the tree. And I just want to give you my philosophy of climbing the tree and then see and then we will get very specific about it. And so if I'm going to climb the tree into awakening, use this as a tool, the first thing I have to do here is wake up. I have to be able to say Hineni. I have this sense that if I just look at my own life, how much of my life I was kind of sleepwalking through it, not necessarily a full agent of my becoming. To be able to wake up enough to say Hineni, to say, what are my motivations? How do I work with my basic instincts? Do I have control over my nervous system? Do I have control over my posture even? These are all parts of things we do to awaken. And if I awaken the Kabbalists, particularly, I get this from Yosef Zhikatilia, is that this right here becomes an abyss. And Zhikatilia works with something from the Mishnah, says in order to cross this, in order to start really working with the tree, like starting with this triangle here, one has to say 100 blessings a day. 100 blessings a day. The price of admission to this next step of growth is learning how to live in gratitude and appreciation. You know, all of us, we could all whine a little bit, complain a little bit, even get angry. These are tough times. We're aware people, and it's easy to get into despair or anger or misery or frustration, etc. Learning to find gratitude and blessing within that is a true skill set that I think is important. But if we go back to the tree, we now have, I'm going to show you a different picture of the tree. This one is developed by the Leshem. And the Leshem now is going to talk about the world of Yetzirah, also known as Zer Anpin, or the small face, small countenance. That's connected to 6, the letter Vav. There's so much to say about this, but what I want to concentrate here are these 2 triangles. Because in order to grow, one has to first work with this triangle and next work with this triangle. And here is how I am going to define them, that the lower triangle of Yetzirah is really about doing one's ego work. All right? It's about doing one's ego work, and we're going to really get into this momentarily. So this becomes like your interpersonal skills, your capacity to what Rumi might call wash yourself of yourself. There's this beautiful line he has in his poem, Be Melting Snow, where he says, be melting snow, wash yourself of yourself. A white flower grows in the darkness. Let your tongue become that flower. In order to be able to do this, you have to learn to work this lower triangle. And again, we'll talk more about that in a second. And then the upper triangle. So this is like personal, but then the next level then is working more on your ethical being in the world. What is your code of service, your personal ethical code, how you do things on behalf of others? And from this model, what's important to understand is that in order to be here in Yesod, right? In order to be here in Yesod and to like really have that sense of a strong foundation, you have to know how to be in right relationship with these 2. We'll talk slowly. And only then, if you want to be the little piggy that builds a brick house instead of a stone house, a brick house instead of a house of sticks, you have to have your own personal work done before you can truly function with an ethical code in the world. Let me show you something more specific about what I'm talking about. So we have here the lower Yetzirah, which is Netzach Hod Yesod, where we learn how to shape our experiences so we can understand them and articulate them. We learn how to work with speech. We have integrity within our sexual behavior. We've worked on our relationship with death. We're not afraid of it. Interpersonal skills. We know how to say hello and goodbye. I'm going to say something that is directly to Steve, Marcia, and and Ellen, but you all can listen in on this conversation. I was taught the importance of this by our beloved friend of blessed memory, Rima Miller, because in the beginning of a training that we all took together, with somebody who had inappropriate sexual boundaries, by the way, that's a whole nother Oprah. I was like interpersonally scared. I was having trouble. And I said, gosh, I don't really like know how to start a conversation. And she goes, no, I've been watching you. I think you know exactly how to start a conversation. I don't think you know how to end a conversation in a way in which you feel still close and intimate. You have to learn how to say goodbye. Changed my life. And it's this strong, strong ego foundation. And so these are the kinds of things we're working on here. And then the upper Yetzirah is about your personal ethical code, self-love, the bandwidth to love and appreciate the other, really understanding your values and how to express in the world, how to make choices, how to harmonize love and judgment. So is this a helpful frame for people? Is this making sense to people? So I'll share with you about something that I have this quote by Reb Zalman. This is, yeah, why not? I mean, Reb Zalman would say that the ego is a great manager, but it's a lousy boss. You know, we have to be learning how I'd say one of the biggest things is what is our impact on other people? But I didn't mean that. Well, that's how it made me feel. But I didn't mean that. And I got really hurt from it. Yeah, but I didn't mean that. Has anybody ever successfully resolved a conversation in that model? And this is something beautiful, you know, this is something that Emmanuel Levinas really tries to teach us. That sense of doing our ego work means that I have to know myself well enough to know, do I want to be right or do I want to have love? Do I want to be right or do I want to feel peace? And this is another thing that we're seeing in today's political climate. I am seeing nothing good coming from, it's like this. No, it's like this. No, it's like this. No, it's like this. No, it's like this. I haven't seen that help anybody. So before I say anything else, any questions? Oh, let's see. Oh, Ellen, that's going to be an interesting comment. Yeah. We'll get to that when we talk about as Salt and Pepper would say, sex, baby. I don't know if anyone knows that song. I don't know if this is the crowd for Salt and Pepper. Questions, comments? I'd prefer if, again, if you haven't spoken yet, before we take people's seconds. Any questions or comments at this point? Let's quickly look at this Reb Zalman quote. Would somebody else read this so I don't have to hear my voice for 5 seconds?
I
Don't
can.
be shy.
I'll read it.
Thank you.
Yesod as ego. Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi. The nature of attunement on ego. We preface our prayers with other prayers that ask that we be able to pray. In this, we seek attunement to the true place of prayer within ourselves, beyond the shell.
Of solipsism.
Beyond the shell, we seek attunement. Oh, yeah, beyond the shell of
Yeah, solipsism.
of the ego person. While we are convinced of the centrality of our ego, of the importance of the boundaries and limits of selfhood, it also begins to dawn on us that we are intimately at one with Hashem, that there are no ultimately meaningful limits between us and others, or between us and the environment. The problem is that the ego has not been seen as permeable in the conventional view, as we have created an entire reality system based on the identity of self with the bag of skin. We come to find out that we have leaky margins, that there is a flow going through us. Perhaps this permeability is not a fault, but represents a healthy membrane that is designed to allow certain substances to pass selectivity. Through a re-examination of our basic ego concept, much can be cleared from the ground of prayer work. From Toma Devora.
No. That's the next reading that we're not going to do.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So, we can get from this, first of all, how important it is to pray. And I love that we have to pray sometimes so that we can pray. Maybe we have to meditate so that we can pray to be able to pray. And this sense of remembering that the centrality of our ego, we have to be in on the joke that we're so much more than that. And we have to explore our leaky margins and boundaries. And in many ways, we do that through our shadow work. And shadow work becomes a very important part of doing this Yesod work. In all the interviews I did with Reb Zalman, he talked about the importance of working on his shadow. I mean, the things that he came back to again and again, first and foremost, was Kalal Yisrael. His deep, yearning, unending, tearful hunger to see us all get along. The other thing he would talk about all the time is the essential nature of doing our own shadow work. Because the only way, and that man, and those of you, there's a few of you that were close to him with the end, that at least through 88 and 2 months, because I didn't see him much after that, that man was still doing his own shadow work. And he was a true tzaddik, right? If that was true for him, it's definitely true for me. And so this is such an important part of Yesod. The other important part that I want to say, and we're going to do a little exercise here to really kind of bring this home, is we're talking about really here this sense of working, netzach to hod, Yesod, like being able to, understand our inspiration and what's coming through. How do we humbly implement it how do we balance these two? And as we know, these two have to be in balance. It's almost like they're the legs that move us forward, that we have to do in order, Hod is getting it done, it's implementing. Netzach is being inspired. Yesod is having a balanced persona, both inside and outside. And it's the ability to have the inspiration to know what to do. So that is, I'm going to do just a very short exercise right now. And those of you who have worked with me before, you've done this before, but I think you could do this every day. So let's just do this together. And so let's begin by, if you feel comfortable. Reb Sarah, are you holding up your hand because you don't on purpose? Okay. So let's just take a moment and we're going to enter the territory of the body. And just take a moment and really be sure you're sitting on your sit bones. We're going to take a moment, sit on our sit bones. And as you sit on your sit bones, hopefully you're able for your feet to be flat on the ground. Somehow establish a connection to the earth. And take a moment and allow your spine to lengthen as your head drifts away from your pelvis. We're going to try and create within that spine a sense of that channel, that sinor, spinous sinoris channel. So allow your head to gently drift away from your pelvis as your spine lengthens. Back of the neck is long. Your perineum, your whole pelvis area is nice and soft. Your jaw relaxes. Your armpits soften. Your jaw relaxes. Now just begin to watch your breath. Breath moves in. Breath moves out. Small, gentle breath in, not too much. Your breath should match your metabolic activity, which is rested. Small breath. Big, long exhale. And then look for the space between the exhale and the inhale. Your exhale should be 3 to 5 times longer than your breath in. Be sure you are able to empty every single bit of that breath. If you can, breathe in through your mouth, your nose, and out through your mouth. Looking for that space between the exhale and the inhale. Just notice how your nervous system begins to relax. Check back in, be sure your spine is lengthened, your armpits are soft, shoulders wide. And as you relax into that space between the exhale and the inhale, imagine that you are inside the Aron, the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKodeshim of the Mishkan. And it is as if the Aron is your heart and the angel's wings are your lungs, and the Shekhinah is in between the wings, in the space between the exhale and the inhale. This is where you find that still small voice, that sense of connection to Hashem, to Shekhinah. And in this moment, she whispers something to you about your own relationship with Yesod. And listen for that still, subtle voice to inspire you in this moment. And as you're ready, slowly bring your awareness back into this circle that we sit in together. And know that part of you learning more about washing yourself from yourself is this capacity to be able to sink into this wisdom place. It reminds me of a song, and so I'm going to sing it. I think I'll put it up, but I'm sure everybody knows this song. Here we go. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and in thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Come on, everybody. Nobody can hear you. V'asuli Mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham v'anachnu nivarech ya me'ata v'ad olam. Thank you for that. There's just a couple more things I want to say. We talked about Yesod as a foundation in the realm of ego, sexuality, speech, emotional health, the ability to cry out, the ability to align your desires with something higher, relationships, exploring your attachments, identifying your emotions, understanding your own motives. I guess we kind of want to go back to that sense also of sacred sexuality. That sense of really being able to feel the juicy eros that is actually life force. I mean, chi, chai, coincidence? I don't think so. It's that eros, if we allow ourselves the possibility of feeling eros as juicy life flow, that doesn't necessarily have to have an object of desire. It's energy for me. It's that juiciness that when like I'm in nature that fills me, when I feel connected in a great prayer or with God or in a juicy encounter. Not holding that for my own self without having an object of desire, I think we'll be a little bit more on the right track if we go in that direction. So I really, yeah, very good, Ellen. So let's go back to Ellen's comment. The focus on the phallus doesn't feel accurate. Amen, sister. Yesod as the deep generative place is exactly right. Ellen, do you want to say a little bit more about that, or do you feel like you expressed what you had to say?
I guess the only thing I would add is in this male construct where Malchut is left alone to be pulled in, various directions, baby in, no place for baby to come out. I mean, Yesod and Malchut are just a gorgeous team, and it strengthens the feminine. And so I've been arguing about this for decades, and I'm glad to hear that.
No argument here. And I love tracking in the Torah. We can track it in the Torah through the fourth day of creation, of that relationship between, HaKodesh Baruch Hu and the moon. And how the diminishment of the moon, gets a prayer of oopsie from God. Oopsie, do a goat every new moon. Sorry. We can track it through the aron itself. When you put the rings on the aron and the pole goes through it, and it never undoes. We can track it through the lechem panim, the showbreads, which is like Abba and Ima in a juicy forever kiss, keeping those breads fresh. I mean, it's all over the Torah. Yeah. You have a real ally here, Ellen. I could sadly, I mean, I could talk about this for a long time and have. All right, so I'm gonna leave we have about 3 minutes for comments, questions, how this has landed for you. Is there something new here or something you want to share of your experience from receiving all these words with a little exercise? Don't be shy. I really want to hear from you. Mark, I'll pick on you. How's it landed for you?
Who, moi? Well, I suppose landing for you is a good question on the week of Yesod. The meditation actually helped me land very peacefully in a real supportive place. There's so many words get in the way of my relationship with divinity. And sometimes I admit that reading about even invitations to be in relationship with the sephira of the day sends my head spinning. And I think we alluded to that before. We are the people of the blah, blah, blah. We like to talk. But how else to communicate what the mystics intuited, what they saw, what they experienced as the grid, I see the sephirot as a giant pinball machine. As one sephira knocks up, like Dan is, doing it right there, against the other, constantly in relationship and changing the balance between one and the other. So that's basically where I'm at. I'm always wrestling with, would I rather? No, that's not a good way to put it. Does it work better for me to sit in silence? Does it work better for me to sing a nigun? Does it work better for me to pray? Whether it be with the text that's been bequeathed to us or in Hitbodedut with my own words in relationship to Hashem. So this is a perfect metaphor for all of that. So I thank you for so clearly inviting us into your understanding and your relationship with the Sefirot, and allowing us the room to articulate our struggles.
Right.
And wrestling.
That's it. I wanna hear from Rick and or Elizabeth there, but I want to end before we start the counting. I want to share the questions that people can use. I'll show you that in just a second. I'll put them in the chat. But I'm going to ask, does everybody know how to copy from the chat into a document? Because if not, I can explain. It's so simple. But Rick and or Elizabeth, please.
It's me. I wanted to thank you for the particular way you were speaking about the human development. And because as I've been with it this last few weeks, visiting, we come into life in utero, and this baby comes in with all the potential. And it doesn't make sense yes, there's some download, but there's also has to be this growing upward. And I've found this a very useful way you
Great.
explicated it, and it was helpful to me. Thank
And
you.
Elizabeth, it's great to see you. It's been a while. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any last comment? One last comment? Yeah, Steve.
Just one quick one from my experiences in the Eastern meditation. There's a particular posture that's recommended to sit in, where the heel of one foot is at the perineum, and the heel of the other foot is at the second chakra, which would be just above the organs. And I've pictured that as a unification. You're bringing Shekhinah, or Malchut, which is often shown traditionally at the heel, to itself to reinforce it, and also to the second chakra, which is Yesod. And it's this balancing out that eros right there in the physical, as well as doing it spiritually.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, let me show you. Here's the questions. And like I said, I'm going to put them in the chat for you as well. These are some questions that you can journal on this week. How does the process of humility and teshuva play out in your life? Do you have a daily practice, weekly, monthly, seasonal, yearly practice? What is your personal code regarding integrity? Do you have a moral code regarding sexuality? What are your foundational values? Describe a time when you had to hold a boundary like Joseph, or a time when a bold, unexpected action like Tamar's changed the trajectory of your life. What does it mean to be a foundation for others? Where do you experience that in your life? So I'm putting these into the chat so that you can have journal questions if you want to kind of follow this trajectory or train of thought. And I think your comments and your, as Leonard Cohen would say, thank you for your kind attention. And that leads us into, even though it's very daylight for me, on the East Coast, you get to count. So I won't be counting out loud because I'll wait till sunset. But here we go.
L'shem yichud kutshabrechu shechintei hineni mochan u'mazuman l'kayem mitzvat ta'aseh shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer shel sfirat ha'omer. I invite you to sing it with me. Sheva Shabbatot Timimotiana Sheva Shabbatot Timimotiana Let's sing the bracha together. Baruch atah havaya Eloheinu ruach haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom tisha u'shloshim yom Shehem chamisha shavuot v'arba'a yamim la'omer. Today is day 39, which makes 5 weeks and 4 days. Approaching the Omer, approaching Shavuot, Netzach she b'Yesod. Yada lai ai ai dai dai dai, yala lai dai dai dai, yala lai ai 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 ai, yala lai ai ai ai. Thank you so much, Reb Charna from Boulder, which is just like the Beit HaMikdash but older. I, yalla lai, yalla lai, yalla lai. And next time when you go to Reb Zalman's kever, please give him a kiss from all of us. Put a rock on from this entire holy gathering, because he is hovering within us and above us all the time. And thank you, everyone. Again, another Moshe thank you for Reb Charna. Yeah, you get cheap sound effects just for that. I said when we began that I want to tell you about this amazing evening for Leil Tikon Shavuot that you, including all Moshniks, are going to need to register for. It's in the chat right now. And 7 wonderful, wonderful tellers, including our own Rick Stone and our own Renee Brockfeld and our own Shulamit Fagan, will be telling that night, June the 1st. We'll start at 8 o'clock Eastern with Ma'ariv. And then we have an evening of sacred storytelling. One of those sharings will be from Rabbi David Zaslav and a personal story about his relationship with Reb Zalman. And Reb David, he goes back. Not as far as Reb Sarah, but he does go back pretty darn far. Also, if people wanted to reach you, Reb Charna, is there an email address that is better than any other that you want to share in the chat?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll put that in the chat. My email is rebcharna@gmail.com. And also, I do have an online Beit Midrash, which is, you can find information shulchan.net. And it's a membership-based, very fairly priced, let me tell you. And we do 2 Torah studies a week. And then there are classes that are also offered, as well as spiritual direction. Actually, Reb Sarah was one of my teachers in my spiritual direction training. Thank you so much for all that.